Okay, so Saudi Arabia now owns EA. This has been rumored and reported on for a number of weeks now about the Saudi Arabian government investing in EA and to help make it go private. Well, now it's actually happened for $50 billion. Saudi Arabia and Jared Kushner are now the owners of EA. And needless to say, a lot of people are not happy about this news because the idea of EA going private, in theory, sounds like a good thing, right? Because a lot of the reasons why EA has been doing a lot of the shady things that they've been doing over the past, I don't know, 15 years or so, to try to squeeze out as much money as they possibly can from all their customers, is because the profit motive behind being a publicly traded company, there's a lot more pressure for a public company than a private company to increase profits every quarter so that the investors are happy and they keep investing in the company. Like, that's the number one objective of a CEO of any publicly traded corporation, is to increase profits for the shareholders. So the best way to do that is obviously to increase prices, is to monetize the games even more, and to just penny pinch their consumers. So that's what we've been getting as a result. So the idea of it going private is intriguing in a lot of ways, but because it's Saudi Arabia, because it's Jared Kushner, it's like, no, this is gonna end up being worse than it ever has been, most likely. Not just necessarily from a perspective of them being greedy and trying to also squeeze as much money as they can out of their customers, but also from just a moral standpoint, and also like from, just from the content itself. Like, what is Saudi Arabia going to do to influence the type of content that is being pushed out to consumers? Because Saudi Arabia has been investing a shit ton of money into all these different ventures across all different industries of entertainment to try to increase their global influence and be like, oh, look, Saudi Arabia is a great place to be. And, they're trying to whitewash, obviously, all the heinous shit that they've done. So that is, like, their way of doing it. Instead of actually changing for the better, they're just going to try to buy out as much influence as possible. I mean, the recent thing that happened was the big comedy show, and they paid all these comedians to come to Saudi Arabia, and I'm like, yeah, that is very incompatible with the stand-up comedian, your average stand-up comedian in America, and their routine. Is not very compatible with Saudi Arabia and their values. I'll just say that. So there's been a lot of speculation because of Saudi Arabia's position on certain issues that's going to influence how the story and the narrative and the way that future games are going to be presented. Like, for example, the big push for LGBT over the past decade or so with EA games, having more representation, having more characters in that realm. Is Saudi Arabia going to be like, that doesn't work for us, brother? we're not going to be down with that. We're paying all this money for this shit, and we're going to have a say in what can and cannot be in our games. So that is something that's probably going to be seen at some point. I mean, who knows? Because China also has a lot of ownership in a lot of different games, and I can't necessarily come up with an example of the Chinese government stepping in with some of these studios that they also have a lot of money invested in, and being like, hey, we're not going to have this in our game because it doesn't make our country look... I mean, it's definitely going to happen at some point. I mean, I'm not going to say that it never will, but it's something that we haven't quite grasped yet, like the implications of a foreign entity, an adversarial entity, which I guess Saudi Arabia technically is not. They're our top ally in the Middle East, aside from Israel. And I'm not going to get into a whole geopolitical rant here, but I have certain opinions and positions on that. Yeah, it's like people are like, just when you think EA can't get worse, they always do. And that's been a running theme for the past 2 decades at this point. And whether we're talking about, what the Saudi government wants to do with having that influence, with, buying one of the largest gaming companies of all time. I mean, behind Activision / Microsoft, like, who's bigger than EA, right? So there's that. And it's also like, because they put $55 billion into this investment, they're going to want to start seeing a return on that investment sooner rather than later. So there is going to be probably a lot of bad monetization policies coming our way. I mean, EA was honestly starting to get a little bit better, I would say, like rolling back some of their really, really egregious monetization policies. Like, I remember back in 2017 when they stopped with the loot boxes, and even in recent years, they've gotten a little bit better with some things. So that's definitely not going to continue in that direction, needless to say. So we'll see what happens, but it can't be a good thing for the average consumer. And I said this when Activision was bought out by Microsoft, that this was a horrible thing, and most people disagree with me. I got more dislikes than likes on the videos that I made back then when that happened, because people were like, oh, Activision is so bad that any company buying them out has got to be a net positive. Well, that is obviously turned out to not be true. So everyone who disliked that video years ago can come back and tell me that I was right and they were wrong. But in this case, nobody is celebrating this and saying this is a good thing. This is just universally hated by anyone with common sense. So I want to know, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you feel about this move, about this acquisition, and what kind of things do you see happening to EA? Like, as far as, you know, what Saudi Arabia plans on doing with the company. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.